This is one of the most iconic sequences in all of superhero movies.
Our old buddies at Scanline actually render out individual particles for all the mist here.
Oh my God.
Crazy stuff.
It is crazy stuff. All right, I'm just gonna say there's 2 visual effects happening.
Is Samuel L. Jackson's goatee CG?
Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this episode. Stick around to the end to see how you can get 15% off for the holidays. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Visual Effects Artist React. Today we are looking at Spider-Man 2 and...
Spider-Man 2.
And...
Spider-Man 2.
That's right, we are looking at all of the Spider-Man 2s today because, you know, Spider-Man 2 is one of my favorite movies.
And Spider-Man 2 is arguably also one of the worst Spider-Man films.
Dude, I just watched Spider-Man 2 last night and it is way worse than I could have ever possibly imagined. But the effects are cool and we're gonna look at some of those today.
Let's kick things off with a little clip from Spider-Man 2.
Wait, are we going straight into Spider-Man 2?
Let's talk about Spider-Man 2.
Anybody here take shop class?
This is an incredible scene objectively.
Yeah. This scene is a perfect scene.
Those tentacles look pretty real through that whole thing.
They do.
If I was watching this movie now, like let's say this movie came out last year, I would guess the tentacles are 100% CG for the entire thing.
Oh yeah.
But they're not. In fact, they are practical far more often than you think. You might think like, oh, it's just like little close-up shots where I got the little like things going tick, 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 tick. But they actually had 16 puppeteers on set for any shots that had all 4 arms in motion.
I believe it. So like 4 people per arm.
Yeah. Also, so you know, those little like guys on the end have so much emotion. Like they can be focused, they can be open, they can be like, you know, punchy. In order to control all of those different things, they actually built this like throne, they call it. And they have all these sticks, like foot pedals, and one dude controls all the different articulating fingers on the end
no
of the
way.
Oh, here it
hand.
is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
But take, for example, the bandana coming off of Alfred Molina's head.
I was actually wondering about that because it's like, okay, you can have the little digital guy, it looks pretty good, but it actually grabs onto his bandage and pulls it off.
What you're seeing here on screen is exactly what they're getting in camera on the day.
I believe it. For what I'm seeing here is that CG is very hard to do specular highlights that are out of focus and sharp. And this has it very well. Like look at the tentacles on the left there in the background. Like look at all the hot white spots there. They're perfectly sharp, they're out of focus in a very natural feeling way. If they were to do that CG, it'd be a little bit softer, it wouldn't quite be so sharp. And plus when those things like open up and retract, there's a little bit of like gradingness to it as it retracts.
I can see
You
one
see
go
that, like,
up, and then I saw it like bump and go like...
Yeah, like it's on like a rough track.
That's something that you would never animate. Or like, I mean, if you did animate, you'd be bragging about it all day.
So this right here, I think is very easy to say is fully CG tentacles because of their motion. They're moving in a way that you can't quite puppet very easily. There's a lot of things happening.
Well, also, if you look at the cloth dangling on the arms that before it falls off, it looks pretty CG.
Oh yeah, dude, I didn't even think about the cloth. Look at that, you're totally right. It's well done though.
It's very well done. So
Looks good.
This is 2004. Rendering is coming along. They're able to make things look pretty photoreal. But something like that fabric not only requires a certain level of detail that they probably didn't bother with in this shot because it's so fast, but you have a lot of like translucency and the way light works through fabric. It's really tricky. The biggest thing though is that the motion here. Like at the end of the day, it's like animation is what gives away things being CG. And it's not that the motion is unrealistic to a certain extent, it's that it moves so fast and it's so wild and free that you wouldn't be able to puppet something like that.
Hand her over!
Of course.
Let's take a look at the shot when they're on the side of the building. So this here I'm pretty sure is practical, to a degree.
Yes.
The arms I think are probably CG because they're piercing into the brick wall. This
Look
shot
at that
here.
CG Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Well,
and CG Doc Ock.
Exactly. Doc Ock is also CG, the building was CG, everything in this shot is CG right now. 100%.
Looks great. I mean, it looks
does look-
CG, but it also looks great.
It's the trench coat most of the time for me. It's your like 2004 cloth sim.
Revisiting it with these goggles that we have on right now, it's like you can tell, but there's something kinetic about it that just works really well that you don't notice that it's VFX just right off the bat.
You know, I gotta say, Ren, it's gotta be something with the lighting. They seem to have just nailed like the texture work. It's a combination of like detail where you can have the camera up close to the wall, but also far back. The whole thing still reads. Is there some secret sauce they're doing for the buildings here?
Yes, there is. Basically, they had a real practical set that they built, and they did a lot of photographic plate capture. So it's not quite photogrammetry, you know, they're not quite doing photo scanning, but they're doing a lot of pictures in a 3D space.
Oh, the Ian Hubert thing.
Yeah.
Where they take a picture of it and then
Buildings and stuff like this is very easy to do in CG because you get some textures, you get some simple lighting. You don't really have too many bounces. Interior CG is harder to do because you have your light ray hitting your thing, then hitting the ground, and then hitting the thing again, then hitting the ground again, and it takes a lot longer to render the more bounces you have. But when you're outside, you have a ray coming in, hitting your thing, and then it bounces away, goodbye.
So one of the things I also want to touch on here is the animation. So the animation's great, like it's awesome. And they did a bunch of development research before they actually went out and shot these scenes. They looked at octopuses, right? Doc Ock, let's look at octopuses. However, a couple of issues arose. One, when octopuses are underwater, they're kind of weightless, and that's not really the right look for the arms. And they decided that they actually kind of wanted more of a bone or jointed look for Doc Ock's arms here in the movie. So they're still flexible, but it's much more inspired by a snake than it is an octopus.
Interesting, I see that, sure.
However, they also took inspiration from an octopus that if you cut off an octopus's tentacle, the tentacle will keep performing the last action that it was given from the octopus's brain.
Oh my God, that's jacked up.
So that's why Doc Ock's arms have their own thought, and they use that to help inform the character and how they're always influencing his thought and kind of doing their own thing. And all of that research and all of that practice and probably all of the puppeteering really added up to animators being able to make really informed, intelligent, characterized motion for Doc Ock, which makes these cool scenes even cooler.
This is one of the most iconic sequences in all of superhero movies, period.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before in Stuntman React too, but this is a good action scene, partially because it's always setting up little mini problems that require clever solutions. When he's on the ground and he's losing the train, let's skate along the ground, pulling with my web to drive myself. That's super clever. It can only be done by Spider-Man. That's just one of the hundreds of cool little problems he has to solve throughout this entire sequence. Of course, the biggest problem is, how do you stop the train?
The thing I remember from this sequence, though, is that he's trying so hard to hold on to those webs that he ends up buckling the train itself, you know? Yeah. So they had a real practical bent-in version of the train in addition to a regular version of the train. We don't really see too much of the actual train car buckling. So we see a little bit of stuff bursting, and then we cut to a new shot and we already see it crushed in. That face is a little ridiculous, though.
No, I mean, I'd love to see your face when you stop a train.
I think, really summarizing this Spider-Man 2, it really just comes down to expert craftsmanship in the intent of what's going into the shot, you know? It's not just throw a bunch of CG at it. It's they know when to use stuff practically, they know when to make it digital, how to put it all together, and just the choreography and the animation, it's so well thought out and planned.
The movie's also super cohesive in that even the action scenes feel like they're set in the same movie with the same actors and the same director as the dialogue scenes. And granted, there's a bunch of talented people that are informing the action design and the visual effects and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of modern movies where your dialogue scenes and your action scenes are just completely different styles and might as well be made by completely two different directors, probably because they are. Whereas this movie it feels really cohesive, and everything feels true to the story, and it all serves the story that's being told.
So this is the opening sequence to The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's the second sequel reboot.
It's Spider-Man 2.
So I watched this movie last night, and I have to say, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It is so bad. It has some of the dumbest writing I've ever seen in a movie. Electro is the dumbest written character I've ever seen. So having said all that, this movie actually does do some things with visual effects that I think are well done. And namely, I think the web physics and the suit are very well done in this movie.
Here's the thing, Spider-Man always looks like a smooth, Gumby type of guy. Like Spider-Man, when he's flying around and he's CG, he looks like he's just buttery smooth.
Exactly. In this movie, they intentionally made the suit a little looser, a little more loose fitting so that they can get the wrinkles and the rippling of the suit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The animation's pretty nice in
This
Spider-Man.
shot right here, I love.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And like
You
as
can
he goes
definitely
around
see-
the building on the right
Wow.
here.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, this is a really cool looking Spider-Man. You're designing the suit. It's like, all right, what's your reference? Like, I mean, it's skydiving, right? That's your reference. That's your visual reference for what Spider-Man looks like, or his suit looks like when it's going through the air. So I'm imagining, like, even if you're wearing tight, like spandex or yoga pants or whatever, and you go skydiving, it's still gonna ripple because you're just going that fast. Look, you can even almost see like underwear lines. It makes such a freaking difference. Like, even though I see stuff from the new Spider-Man 2, and I like you look at the suit and you're like, what? It's like literally Mr. Smoothie or whatever.
Mr. Smoothie!
No, but really, you're like, am I watching this at like 240p or is this at like 1080? Like, you can't tell if there's like, oh, maybe it's just a wash of compression. That's why I don't see any details. Like, no, there isn't a lot of detail.
I think The Amazing Spider-Man really nailed the look of a Spider-Man suit because it feels like a suit, you know? It doesn't feel like his skin is just Spider-Man colored. My complaints about this movie are more about like the filmmaking and storytelling and writing. The visuals overall are pretty dang good. And then we get to this end sequence here and it just kind of like...
Dude, I'm getting Lawnmower Man vibes.
I am God here.
The idea to make Jamie Foxx this like freaking Blue Man Group dude.
The weird kind of Dr. Manhattan glow is just, it looks 100% CG. It does not
Yeah.
look like it'd be filmed with the real camera.
And the thing that sticks out to me is that like, you don't buy that this is a real place. It looks more like a video game level.
The way we move, the way the camera moves, the way everything is directed and acted, the scenario itself, it feels like you're watching a CG animation.
But you never saw this coming.
Don't you hate when you turn and you see a car?
Man, if only you could fly, then you wouldn't be hit by cars.
Yeah, why don't you just fly up like a foot higher? It's not like he didn't see it coming. He turns and sees the car coming.
This really speaks to the dichotomy of like big budget movies that always irks me, which is you literally have cutting edge, incredibly sophisticated CG with like inventive problem solving going on, and it's just, you know, millions of dollars and thousands of people working on it. And then the best they can do for Emma Stone's arrival is just, she hits him with the car because he's floating 2 feet off the ground. He goes, huh? It's like, you got so sophisticated and advanced with one thing, and the other one has about as much creative effort as like, you know, a 5-minute idea in a boardroom meeting.
So, moral of the story, Spider-Man 2 had a lot of good things going for it, and writing was not one of them.
Yeah, a lot of great technical achievements.
Oh my God! Oh, snap! Dude, Geese! What up, dude? How's it going? Oh, man!
I love you guys. I had to just interrupt.
Dude, we got Black Panther himself here right now.
Keep watching.
Now, from a story perspective, I do think the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are excellent.
I agree.
I think they're very good movies.
I think Spider-Man 2 also is really cool because it does have the most meta villain in any of them, because Mysterio is literally wearing a motion capture suit.
What's the design called?
Sierpinski.
The Sierpinski pattern. It's essentially a fractal of triangles.
Yeah.
And it's very good for showing orientation because you have 3 points of a triangle, and as it moves around, and if you know the lengths of each side, you can kind of determine the actual relative angle of those triangles. And when you have enough of them over a bodysuit, it's very easy to track something. And so that's become such a big thing in the industry. You know, Ninja Turtles had them. You always see like these dudes in these mocap suits on set. So I think it became enough of an inside joke from the filmmakers that they're like, all right, he seems to be a bit of a VFX artist, so let's give him a VFX artist costume.
I mean, yeah, it's illusion holograms, you know. So yeah, it makes sense for the story.
We've already looked at the whole dream sequence in a previous episode, linked down in the description. Check it out.
Our old buddies at Scanline did this scene.
Our old buddies.
And it's because there's water in it.
Yeah.
So Scanline, they're known for a ton of water because they've got their own custom water software. So they did it for this, and usually you're doing water simulations and you add like volumetric mist, basically, to kind of create like the microparticles. But they brute forced it in this whole sequence.
Wait, what?
To actually render out individual particles for all the mist here.
Oh my God. So we're talking millions of particles.
Like they're not volumetric simulations. They're like actual particle sims.
So the reason we're talking about like the mist being particles as being such a big deal is because you might do something like that using voxels, and voxels let you do fluid simulations like, you know, smoke and fire and things like that. And a voxel is a volumetric pixel. It's basically a tiny cube, and then you give properties to that cube. Does it have smoke in it? How much? You know, if you're shooting a light ray through this volume of voxels, what happens is the light ray goes into it. As it goes deeper and deeper, does it lose energy? Does it bounce back out in a different direction? But you can also go the brute force route of having millions of particles. Your ray can just come in, hit a particle, and bounce out. Some rays will go all the way in before they hit a particle. Some rays will bounce off the surface and hit a particle. You know, they'll hit different particles on the way out, and they'll take on different colors. And you can do that all through ray tracing, which is single ray bouncing through things as opposed to taking on properties as it steps or marches through things. Crazy stuff.
That is crazy stuff.
You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man.
So in this next scene, I want you guys to guess where the VFX are happening.
This is just a normal dialogue scene.
Is Samuel L. Jackson's goatee CG?
All right, I'm just gonna say there's 2 visual effects happening.
Let me guess, his gun is CG.
Yep.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, he's holding a stick with tape on it. He's not even in the room.
I was actually gonna mention that.
They filmed these 2 halves of the conversation separately. He's on a green screen.
Dang it, I
the
was gonna
entire time.
guess that. He's not even there.
No, they're
Not
like,
even there.
maybe it was a scheduling thing, probably.
It was probably a scheduling thing. When you're working with like big name actors like this and you're having to coordinate things for a whole movie shoot, but like their schedules just don't line up so you can have both of them in the same spot at the same time, especially for something like this where this is like just a day shoot.
It's so funny when it's like the simplest of scenes, basically. Guy sitting in a chair talking to another person in a room, and it's just, yeah, we comped a man. They were never actually.
That's Marvel for you.
And it looks great. You would never suspect it. You would never think of a single thing. You wouldn't even look at the gun in the hand and go like, oh, that's fake. It's like, no, it's totally invisible.
Guys, the holiday is quickly approaching, and thanks to today's sponsor, Raycon, I've got the perfect gift idea for you right here. The everyday earbuds. That's right, because today's sponsor is Raycon. So I'm actually being a lot like Spider-Man right now because he has his ears blocked out from the wind with a mask. Same way as I've got my ears blocked out from the noise isolating fit. When I'm ripping down the street on a one wheel, it's very windy, so these things help isolate that sound away so that I don't get that wind noise when I'm trying to enjoy my music. They come with their own charging case. Now these ones are the fancy blue ones, but they come in 5 different colors as well. So let's say you got the wrong color, that sucks, I'm sorry. Well, guess what? You can return these for free with free shipping as well. If you or someone you know wants some earbuds, well, guess what? You know what's better than having high quality premium earbuds? Having them at an affordable price. So you don't even have to like splurge to get them some wireless earbuds. You can get them something else too because of their price. All you gotta do is click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/corridorcrew and use the code HOLIDAY and you will get 15% off anything on the site. Thanks again to Raycon. Let's get back to the Spider-Mans. The Spider-Men to boys? Well, Spider-Boys to men.
You guys know Danny Gonzalez, the big famous YouTuber? Well, he worked here at Corridor for like a few months before that happened. And while he was here, he made a video with Peter called Not Spider-Man, and we never released it.
So we just kind of held on to it. We rewatched it recently and I was like, hey, this actually isn't that bad. We should just put it out. So it's out now.
Yeah.
On the Quarter channel. You can go watch it right now.
It's pretty funny. If you're sick of everyone being Spider-Man, this is not the video for you.
Spider-Man is great and all, but what if it was a little bit more rated R? Well, guess what? We did that and it's coming out on this channel tomorrow, so subscribe for that.
Oh, and if you subscribe to quarterdigital.com, you can watch Spider-Man Rated R right now, because it comes out early on our website. As all videos do.
Yeah.
Without ads. If you had to rank Spider-Man 2s, what would you put Spider-Man 2, first, second, or
Oh,
third?
definitely Spider-Man 2 at the top.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
easy. But dude, Spider-Man 2 is not only one of the worst Spider-Man movies of all time, it's easily one of the worst movies.
Are you excited for Spider-Man 3?
Dude, I'm very excited.
I'm pretty excited for the new Spider-Man 2.